Hello and welcome to another episode of Geography Made Easy. In these videos, we try to make difficult geographical concepts easy. Today we will be talking about demographic attributes and we will be focusing on India. What do we understand by the term demographic attributes or demography? The different kinds of characteristics of a population is called its demographic attributes. Demography itself is a discipline, and this discipline studies about different characteristics of populations. So in this case, we take demographic attributes to be age structure, composition, that is male and female, nature, and so on. Very interestingly, I want to talk here that in composition, we just don't talk about male, female or rural, urban. We also have a transition zone here. So we can have places which fall within the rural urban spectrum as well as within the male and female spectrum. We can have the third gender or we can have the LGBTQ. But we will not go into that here. We will stick to the simple versions. First, we will talk about discussing about the rural urban population and the characteristics. So, based on the place of residence, population can be divided into two types broadly. One is the rural and the other is the urban. The main difference which lies between rural and urban population is largely based on what they do for their livelihood and the way in which the society operates. So very interestingly here we can understand that a particular kind of occupation is attributed to the rural area, in this case usually primary activities, and I'm here mostly talking about Indian examples. We do have other kinds of examples in the world as well, where we see that in the rural population it is not always the primary sector that it caters to. The social relations part is very interesting. This is the bonding between the people who live or the society they form in a village versus in an urban area. In cities, we see that this social relation is very different. A lot of people from different areas come and live here from different regions. Usually, what happens is people do not know each other that well. They are not so well knit or connected in comparison to rural areas where we see that the community as a whole is more responsive to any kind of social cause than it is in the urban areas. But of course, again, we do have exceptions. We do have the different kinds of social relations, but this goes into a different sector which I don't want to talk about here. The term village is basically it is a revenue unit as described in India, and they are involved in, as I have already mentioned, primary activities. The term urban is related to cities where most people are involved in secondary or tertiary activities, either in the service sector or they are working in factories and other places. Again, now this definition is very loose. It has changed. It has evolved with the newer, with the 21st century. These definitions are changing fast, but we will still stick to the original for simplicity. Now we will be understanding about how in India the rural population is distributed. India is still a large number of people of the country live in villages. And this is according to the 2011 census. We know that Himachal Pradesh has the highest number of rural population, which is 89 5.96 people in Himachal Pradesh live in villages. However, we know that this trend is changing. We'll come to that. This is followed by the states of Bihar, Assam, Odisha, and Delhi has the lowest rural population. Now, why does Delhi have the lowest rural population? Delhi, the NCR region, if I take the NCR region itself, Delhi is a city. This city is itself a union territory, and this union territory is mostly an urban territory. So what happened is there has been a huge amount of urbanization which has taken place in Delhi. Delhi had a number of villages. It actually was an amalgamation of villages, and we still hear in certain parts of Delhi the names of villages which are right now they have been converted into or amalgamated into the urban fabric. So it has the lowest rural population, and the NCR region, as Delhi expands, slowly is becoming urban. The urban spread or the sprawl is huge. Delhi is the capital of India, which is also another reason why the urban agglomeration is huge. And we are looking at this kind of rapid urbanization in certain other cities also. Now, coming into urban population, so 31.16% of the total population of India lives in urban areas. So nearly 70% of the total population lives in urban areas, and this is an old figure. It has changed. This percentage has increased because we are looking at in the last 10 years we have seen huge amount of urbanization taking place in the different cities of India. So some of the highest urban growth centers are Chandigarh, Delhi, Haryana, Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Nagaland. So these northeastern states are also seeing rapid urbanization. Apart from that, we also see urbanization taking place in the south, especially in Karnataka, where we see Bangalore is coming up as a huge agglomeration. So, what is the process of urbanization? The process of transformation from a rural area to an urban area is called urbanization. So when a rural area slowly the character changes into an urban area, it is called urbanization. This character change takes place sometimes slowly, sometimes quickly, when we see that the population pattern or the kind or the demographic population demography changes in that area. Sometimes we also see that rural areas are forced and made into urban areas. We see these townships coming up in and around many cities, and we see that these townships have come up on acquired land, rural land, which used to be agricultural land. Sometimes they are converted into areas or land on which we see factories being set up, or we see any other kind of tertiary activity taking place like office being set up, and we see a transformation or urbanization takes place. This urbanization process is a very rapid process, and India is a quickly growing urbanized country. So this urbanization varies between different regions in India. Certain regions are experiencing much more rapid urbanization compared to other parts of India. So the most urbanized state in this case, it's a small state. We have Goa, whose 62.17% of the area is urban. Followed by the southern states, we see Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and we see Gujarat. Gujarat, which used to be a rural, an agrarian state, slowly post independence, it has completely transformed and transfigured itself, and it is slowly urbanizing with huge industrial impetus taking place in India, in Gujarat. Sorry. We also see the union territories of Delhi and Chandigarh having high percentage of urbanization process which is taking place. So now we will look into the next topic, which is the sex composition, another demographic attribute. So what is the sex composition? Here we are basically talking about the number of males and females in the population. We are leaving out the third gender here. So the sex which is determined at birth, we are taking that into consideration. Now this specific matrix, sex ratio, is a very important matrix in understanding how developed a country is. We will come into that. So sex ratio is defined as the number of females per thousand males. So we have the total number of females per thousand males in the population. Naturally, it is seen that the number of females is usually higher than the number of males in any population. This is because the female gene is stronger, so the chances of the female gene surviving is much more. Also, conception of the female genes, the female sex, is much more. This is a natural and medically proven fact. However, in India, we see that the sex ratio is not in favor of females. We see that it is 940 females per 1000 males, and this is according to the 2011 census, which of course the sex ratio has improved over the years. We will come into that. According to a very recent data which was published by the National Family Health Service NFHS, the sex ratio in India for 2023 has actually improved a lot, and which is 1020 females to 1000 males. And if we have the next census and we get some kind of similar figure, we will know that this problem of sex composition, which was present or prevalent in India, has actually been eradicated. Now, what are the causes of low sex ratio? As I have already mentioned, that naturally the number of females are supposed to be more. Then what are the causes? Why is the sex ratio low in India? There is a lot of social and economical reasons behind this low sex ratio in India. The first and the foremost reason is the preference for the male child. This is how our society is, which wants a male child because the male child is getting it has the rights. The last rights of its parents lies in the male child, and it is we are still in a patrilinear society where the family will only the family line will only survive if you have a son. With the daughter, the family line ends. So most couples, they want a male child. Also, a male child is seen as somebody who will take care of the parents when they are old. So that is also another reason. This we see is also something which is commonly seen in countries which have high agrarian societies. We see similar situations in China as well, where the preference for the male child was there because the male child would be inheriting the property, the land, and would be carrying on the line, and the right to the last to do the last rites of the parents with their death lies with the male child. But however, this is changing, and this has changed. So now the preference is has reduced, but we still find in rural areas and even in educated people, we still find that the preference for the male child is there. The second point is high mortality rate of mother and child during and after childbirth. So in this case, we see that the lack of medical facilities, especially in rural areas, and also no awareness or neglect in case of the families for the pregnant mothers and the child who is born, especially if it is a female child, leads to their death. And hence again we see that the sex ratio is unfavorable towards the females. The third is a very important point, which is the dowry deaths. So dowry is a very ill practice which is still practiced in India, where we see that after marriage, for marriage, women, the parents of the girl has to pay the groom's family a large amount of money in the form of cash, or in the form of jewelry, in the form of even any kind of material goods. Now, if the son, if the father of the girl is not able to pay this money, in many cases it is seen that it leads to dowry deaths. So, any couple would not like to have a girl child because they would have to pay at the time of her marriage. Rather, would want a male child because that would be a financial gain. Because when you marry off the son, you get money from your in-laws' house. So this is also another reason dowry is a big social problem because of which we have low sex ratio. Sex determination before birth. Now, this is again linked with the preference for the male child and dowry death. So, you don't want a girl child, so you do the sex determination test, which is absolutely illegal in India because of this reason, and you go for termination of the pregnancy. You go for an abortion, and this abortion is also done illegally. Now, if you are in the US or if you are in any European country, you would be able to do the sex determination test before birth, and you know the child, the gender of the child even before they are born. But in India, we still do not know, and we only come to know about the gender of the child, about the sex of the child once the child is born. So, this is an illegal thing because of the reason, because it was seen that in certain parts of India, if the female fetus was killed, there was abortion done when the sex determination tests were being done illegally. Neglect of females, and I have already talked about this. That is, the girl child is neglected from birth. It is kind of like an unwanted child who the parents do not really want. And here I want to talk about a lot of policies which the government has taken up to make, or to help the girl child with their birth so that they don't become a burden, because, and to educate the girl child so that they are not married off at a young age. And also, this is now leading to this kind of a change which we are seeing, where a lot of women are refusing to pay dowry on their in their marriages, because once they become empowered, they are realizing that it is a wrong practice. The sixth point is low status of women. Yes, this is a very important point. Because of the low status of women, that is the reason, the main reason why we have low sex ratio. But again, we see that more and more women join the workforce, more and more women are becoming empowered, they have a voice now, and we see that the status of the women is changing, and that directly gets reflected in the sex ratio. So, according to the 2011 census, this is some of the sex ratio. Kerala, the state of Kerala has the highest sex ratio of 1084, followed by Pondicherry, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh. South is better. Some of the lowest sex ratios are in Haryana as a state, Delhi NCR, Chandigarh, and the Union Territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, Daman and Diu. Now, reasons I will discuss here. Kerala has very good sex ratio because of the empowerment and education, the high literacy rate which is seen here. Where more women are educated, more men are educated, we see that it directly affects the social behavior. Haryana, on the other hand, there is the problem of dowry death, there is the low status of women, which leads to sex determination before birth and a lot of female fetus infanticide and female fetus termination. Delhi NCR has low sex ratio because of the fact that a lot of male members migrate to Delhi for work, leaving behind their families in villages or other parts of India. So that is the reason, not because of any other social issue. Moving on, this is the map which shows the 2011 conditions of the sex ratio in India, where we have above 1000 in case of Kerala. The southern states have good sex ratios of 950 to 1000: Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and some of the northeast states of Assam, Meghalaya, Manipur, Mizoram, and here we have Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh. Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh have a favorable sex ratio because a lot of people from Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, they migrate to Delhi, they migrate to UP for work. So the males migrate, which leads to a favorable female sex ratio. The lower sex ratios are experienced in Punjab, Haryana because of the social conditions. Also, we see pretty average conditions in the other states of Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Rajasthan, UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, and West Bengal. So all these states as well as Arunachal Pradesh. So all these states have a average sex ratio. They need to work harder in order to make it favorable. Next, we move on to the next topic, which is the age composition. So, age composition is when the census classifies the population on the basis of their age, and the census classifies it into three categories. We have the young, we have the adult, we have the old. We have the young population up to 15 years, we have the adult population between 15 to 59 years, and we have the old population above 60 years. The adult population is the working population because the old population retires, and the young population is usually, it is considered that they are in education and they are not working. The young and the old population is dependent on the adult population for their livelihood. So these two populations are economically unproductive, and this population is the economically most productive population. So the young and the old is called the dependent population, and they are dependent on the adult or the working population group. And here we will be discussing now little bit about the 8 sex pyramids. The 8 sex pyramids are bar graphs which are drawn based on age and which help us show or talk about the 8 sex composition of the population. So in this case, we have taken the examples of 3 types. The age group is measured in the x-axis, and this is the females, and the males are measured on the x-axis, and these bars represent the age groups. So we have the first type, which is the triangular age pyramid, then we have the bell shape, then we have the urn shaped. The triangular age pyramid is commonly seen. This is the case of the developing nations, where the young age, which is 0 to say 5 years or 0 to 10 years, depending on how the demographer has chosen his age groups, this the base is always very broad, meaning that the number of children being born into this particular country is much larger compared to the number of people who are living, say, up to 80 years or 60 years, whatever it is. In case of the bell-shaped pyramid, we see that here usually the mortality rate is high. People die. So many of this, there is loss of the people. So many children are born, but they are not living up to the age of say 60, 70 because of lack of health care, because it's maybe a poor country. In a bell-shaped pyramid, we see the opposite, where we see that it's more or less the shape of the pyramid shows that the age sex composition is more or less stable. So the males and females who are born, most of them survive to a ripe age. So the medical facilities, etc., is good. And the urn shaped is what we see in the developed nations. Of course, there is a number of people die because of natural causes when they become old, but the number of children being born is less than the number of working population. And we are seeing this kind of situation in the developed nations, or in a nation where there is war. A lot of children are dying, a lot of people are not having children because of the war like situation. So we see this in developed nations, like Japan is facing this problem. Won't go into more details, we'll directly go into the age sex pyramid in case of India. So here the pink, this is the female section, and very stereotyped, they have stereotyped and made this pink, and this is the male section, the blue. So over here we have the percentages which are drawn, and these are my age graphs. So between 0 to 4%, my female population is 4.8, my male population is 5.3. 5 to 9, 4.9, 5.4. So we see that the male population percentages are always larger than the females. In all the places, only we see that they become more in the higher age groups, where we see that the females tend to survive more than the males because of, again, the genetic factor which we are talking about. So India already in 2011, we can see that the base has is not very wide. It's not wider than the 5 to 9 age group gap. It is smaller between the 0 to 4 gap. This is because the birth control growth rate is slowly being arrested. Birth control is taking place. A lot of urban people are tending to have less number of children, and in many cases even no children. So we can see the arrest of birth, number of births is becoming less, and this is leading to this kind of a population pyramid which we can see in India. Next, we will be looking into the demographic attribute of literacy. So the ability to read and write any simple language, any simple message in any language, classifies a person as literate. So literacy rate is calculated with the number of literate persons per 100 persons. So literacy rate is literate population divided by population of an age group above 7 years. Below 7 years is considered illiterate. Children are just learning even if they are going to school, so they are not yet literate. From 7 years and above, you are considered as literate into 100, because we are taking into consideration 100 persons. So if we look at the map of India, we can say that this is the literacy rate percentages. So less than 75% is most of North India, with states like Rajasthan, UP, MP, Jharkhand, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, and even some southern states like Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Assam, Arunachal Pradesh. 80 to 85% we see Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. Excellent literacy rates are seen in Mizoram, and Tripura is doing better, 85 to 90, and in Kerala. Very high literacy rates are seen in these areas. And this literacy rate can be directly related with the sex composition. The number of females and males will in a particular area. We'll come into that. So literacy rate in India and the literacy gap. So we are looking at the census years. We are looking at the number of males and females in each census years who are literate. So we can see that the the difference between the number of males and females in many cases is very large, becomes more larger. I mean, more males get the preference to study than the females. Let us look at, say, 1981, where we have 56.38% of the male population is literate, compared to 29.76 women only, which is at 26.62. Now this gap is slowly, of course, decreasing. We had the 2011 census where we see the gap has reduced. We see 65.46% of women are studying compared to 82.14, and the gap is 16.68. It is reducing over the years in every census year. More and more women are studying. There is a huge focus on women education and women empowerment, especially in the rural areas. And this is possible with a lot of policies which are taking place right now and which have been taking place, because that is what we can see, that the improvement has taken place with time post independence. And we look at 75 years now, we see the improvement slowly taking place. More and more women are their families are supporting them as they are becoming educated, as they become empowered. And we see that this trend is also present in rural areas, so that is a very good sign which we can see. So in regional patterns of literacy, we can see that Kerala has the highest. Kerala, and in case of the northeastern states, mostly, especially Mizoram, we see highest literacy rates. And this is because of the reason that here most people are being educated. The entire population is now educated, so their next generation is again becoming educated, achieving better and better results. And this literacy rate is having a direct impact on the sex ratio of this area. We see that the sex ratio is very good. We see high sex ratios in the northeast, so this has a direct implication on the sex ratio. And this actually talks us, so if we have a good literacy, we will have a good sex ratio, it is directly seen, which leads to mm, a very good development of that area. So we see that the development index is very good in these states compared to, say, the North Indian states of Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan. We see that these states, in many cases, the literacy rate is low, and the literacy rate being low leads to more social stigma and leads to a lower sex ratio and a poor status or low status of women in these states. So this has a direct implication on the development index of a particular country. Now we will be talking about the working population. We will be talking about occupation. Basically, I will not go into too much of details, but I'll just talk a little bit about the working population. We have two types of working populations. We have the main workers and we have the marginal workers. The main workers here are those who are employed throughout the year. The marginal workers are those who are not working throughout the year, and in some cases, they are not owners of the land on which they are working. So, we see that they are dependent on others for their occupation or work. So, if we look at the schemes, the central government schemes which are going on, we have the 100 days of work. The 100 days of work are for the marginal workers. The main workers are the ones, usually we will see those who are the landowners. They have jobs of work throughout the year. And we also, now we have cottage industries and other empowerment coming up, rural schemes coming up, where they are trying to convert, the government tries to convert marginal workers into main workers, factories, or any kind of jobs which is giving you a permanent throughout the year, it is giving you income. So it is very important to understand this. Now we look into the occupational pattern. This is the 1981 census which classifies the occupation into different categories, and this has been accepted in 2001 and 2011. A more detailed classification existed in the 1971 census, which I have not written because that is not right now considered. So basically this occupation is divided into cultivators, agricultural laborers, household industrial workers, house and other workers. So we have the cultivators, we have these people who are usually the landowners who are tilling their own land. We have the agricultural laborers, they are migrants, they are the marginal workers or seasonal workers who are usually working in the land of the cultivators, and they usually don't own land, or they are working in different other kind of agricultural activities surrounding the cultivation process. Then we have the industrial workers. We have the people who are working in industries, and we have the other type of workers. So we have all the other classifications of tertiary sector. They are classified into other as the others. This is a very generalized classification, but the 1971 occupational pattern was much more detailed. So it is there in the book. If you want to have a look, you should. So usually the occupation pattern of a population is shown with the help of a pie diagram, and this is how it comes, where it's the different population characteristics is classified. This gives you an insight into the nature of the population, what kind of activities they are doing. So whether you want to call a particular settlement rural or urban, so this is very very important. It is a very very important aspect which gives a lot of insight into the changing nature of the population as well. So demographic attributes I have already discussed is very very important as a development index. It talks about the characteristics of the population. So we have looked into the general idea of the demography or the population. But when we look at certain specific questions like what is the sex composition, that is giving us a much more deeper understanding or idea about the nature of that particular population, and that is very important because that will tell me whether it's a developed nation or whether it is a developing nation, and that is used in most cases for by the international agencies as well as the respective countries to classify themselves and to understand how much development is taking place, and accordingly to transfer funds into different developmental activities. So, what are the important questions that can come from this? So, we can have these small definition type of questions: literacy rate and age sex ratio, etc. Uh, this is a very favorite chapter for map pointing. States with highest and lowest of a certain criteria, and you should be able to mark that. So, you have to, your maps are blank, so you should be able to, on your blank map, draw the state boundary, and you should be practicing that. Um, Relating concepts, so as I have already discussed, like relating say literacy with sex ratio, or relating rural urban population with the migration pattern, which we have done in the previous chapter, this can come. So you can have these conceptual questions, you need to be relating them, and then you should be able to answer them. And this I've not seen, but I can always say that you might be given a data or a diagram like a sex pyramid, or you can be given any kind of data, and you should be like a data as I have showed with the different sensors, with the gaps which were mentioned, the literacy gaps. So should be able to answer questions from there and interpret and reason why they are important. So, if you have any doubts and questions, please comment in the chat section, and do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel and share it if you like it with your friends. And till then, we will meet in the next video. Bye.